Okay, we're going to go back to page 5, paragraph F, effective cancellation on deposits. If the buyer does get cold feet towards the end of the transaction and he decides he wants to cancel, he may incur some cost. And some of those costs could be the seller's cost. Maybe he already completed the buyer's repair request, and so now he could charge the buyer for that. Maybe escrow has incurred some fees that are buyer's fees, so they will also take that out of the buyer's deposit. So prior to actually canceling escrow, either the seller or the buyer may cancel this agreement for failure of the other party to close escrow, but seller or buyer must first give the other a demand to close escrow. A notice to perform does not give the right to the seller to keep the buyer's deposit, but a demand to close escrow form does give the seller the right to keep the buyer's deposit. So make sure you're using the appropriate document when you are putting parties on notice. Now also, in order to keep the buyer's deposit, first of all, that notice has to be given, notice to demand to close escrow, and then the seller will request the buyer's deposit. But the buyer has to agree to allow escrow to release the money to the seller. Remember, escrow is a neutral third party, and they cannot take the instructions from just one side of the transaction. Both buyer and seller have to agree in writing what is going to happen with that deposit, and it's only at that time that escrow can release that deposit. Now let's move on to repairs. Repairs need to be completed prior to the final walkthrough so the buyer can verify that they've been done and they comply with any applicable law and they've been done in a good workmanship type manner. And final walkthrough is for the purpose of making sure the property is in basically the same condition as when you made the offer and it was accepted. It's not a contingency. It's not to revisit repairs or ask for other compensation. And the last point is proration of property taxes will happen in escrow and the proper party will be credited or charged to make the property taxes current.